morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Let me know you are logged on. What's up, IG? What, Ray, you made it. What's up, brother? That's right. I'm glad you made it, man. What's up? What's up? Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, Ray, man. I'm gonna have to get you on, man, on one of these segments. I've been thinking about trying to get some other entrepreneurs up to just give some words of wisdom on about their own grind, man, and share that good insight. All right, what's going on Facebook? All right, we'll give it a couple minutes, man. Just try to get everything set up on Facebook. I always like to give it just a few minutes, and then we'll jump into it, and that'll be that, man. Another week of the grind during this crazy time, man. It's just a weird time we live in, man. It's so crazy. Weird times, man. All right, here we go. If you're watching on Facebook, drop me a note or drop a comment. Let me know you're watching on Facebook. We should be getting started in a minute. Just making sure everything is good to go. Let me know what you're up to. Making your morning coffee, laying in bed, reading a newspaper, working out. What are y'all doing at 3 in the morning? Planning your day, reviewing your day. Should probably talk about morning routine. Do one about morning routine, the power of a morning routine. All right. I got you, Ray. All right, cool. All right, I'm gonna stop messing with this thing. All right, let's go ahead and get started, man. It's 3:03 a.m. Definitely got a reward. I like to reward the people who got on, man, who got on time. I know your time is extremely valuable, and I appreciate you for logging on, especially logging on so early in the morning. So I want to go ahead and get started. Welcome to another edition. I like saying that. Welcome to another edition of the 3 a.m. Club. Today is Monday, August 10th. And I love saying, man, a new edition because it means we're staying consistent. Definitely. I remember when I came up with this idea, and I remember, first couple weeks, first month or so, didn't have a lot of people logging on. I was like, man, ain't nobody getting up at 3 a.m. to log on to watch. And over the last couple of months, man, you all have definitely started to show up more and, started to show up a lot more frequently. So I thank you all for logging on, man, and giving me the motivation and the added energy to continue to keep doing these. And I'm definitely going to keep doing them as long as as I'm able to provide you all with some type of benefit and some value as it relates to just your own grind. Now, mostly this call is for entrepreneurs, but it's also for aspiring entrepreneurs. For people who's really just trying to build that level up in their life, trying to get to the next level, and people who are hungry and motivated to just to push past where they are today, and they have a dream, they have a goal, they have a vision, they have somewhere that they're trying to get to. So today I wanted to talk about the importance of not being afraid to change. Like, do not be afraid to change. The reason why I wanted to talk about that today is because, man, I've been working on just kind of putting the finishing touches on my overall platform, and I've got a lot of ideas and a lot of things that I want to do. And as being an entrepreneur, being somebody who is creative, just by the nature of it, you always are going to have more ideas than you know what to do with, right? You're always going to have more business ideas than you can actually capitalize on. You're always going to be battling, trying to make sure that you're focused and that you're staying focused on the things that you should be staying focused on, and not getting distracted by certain things. So just by the nature of entrepreneurship, there are different internal challenges that you have to embrace. But anyway, on the creative side, trying to channel your creativity and trying to make sure that the things that you are creating are in alignment with your overall goals. There a lot of things that I'm creating right now, and I realized over the last couple of days there were some changes that I wanted to make, and not so much the platform overall, but what information goes with what particular segment. So for example, on Mondays I do the 3 a.m. club. On Tuesdays I do something called Wealth Talk Tuesdays, and then I have another segment that I've been working on called the Wealth Checkup. Well, I decided that I wanted certain content to be specifically for the Wealth Checkup, and I wanted certain content to be for Wealth Talk Tuesdays, which required that that I moved some stuff over to what would be on Tuesdays rather than Thursdays, even though after the fact I've already kind of started going down the process of publishing and putting out certain information under certain banners, and now I'm going to make a slight change. And if anybody's like really, really paying attention and they're following my every move, somebody's gonna be like, hey, this should be here and this should be there. And that's if you're paying that much attention. But even if you are, who cares? Like I decided to make, you know what I mean? Like I decided to make a change, and I made that change because I realized that there was a better way to align, the things that I'm doing, and to make sure that that alignment, fits my overall goals, and and all that type of stuff. But it was just a small example of why you can't be afraid to change. Another example of just another example of a change that I made after the fact. My Wealth Talk Tuesdays, I originally had planned to call it Wealth Talk Tuesdays, and for some reason when I first published it, I said Wealth Tip Tuesdays, and I quickly realized, I was like, yo, it's not Wealth Tip, it's Wealth Talk. And I made that change, so by the next week it was titled Wealth Talk Tuesdays and not Wealth Tip Tuesdays. But anyway, those are just some really quick examples of not being afraid to change, and then recognizing when you want to change or when you need to change, and then actually making those changes and moving forward with the changes that you've decided to make. There are other examples where like last month I decided there were some changes I wanted to make in terms of my physical fitness and my nutrition, and decided to make those changes, hired a physical trainer, a nutritionist, and continue to move forward. So as an entrepreneur and as somebody who's constantly trying to get to that next level, you have to understand, you have to constantly be in a position where you are not afraid to change. And when you recognize, the faster that you recognize, hey, change is needed, and then the faster that you can actually make those changes, the quicker the growth and the quicker the advancement is going to be towards your goals, towards whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. And what holds a lot of people back, is they are not able to discipline themselves, right? When we talk about change is really a byproduct of discipline. It's a byproduct of self-discipline. It's a byproduct of awareness and being aware of what's happening, being aware of what your thoughts are, being aware of what you're trying to accomplish, being aware of what you don't know, and then being aware of when you figure out that there is another way to do something. Change is a byproduct of all of these things. But when people find it difficult, they find it difficult to change, and then they find it difficult to maintain the level of self-discipline that you need to ride through the ups and downs, the discomfort of change, and then maintaining that discipline so that you can consistently over time implement and execute the things that you decided to change. So I just wanted to give y'all, make a couple points about change, and give you, just kind of 3 points on how to actually change. One, you have to accept the fact that change is constant. You have to accept the fact that change is constant. And when I say constant, right, to give it context, change is something that should be happening literally every single second of the day. Every time you move, every time you think, every time you speak, whatever it is you're doing, even when you're not doing something, things are changing. The things are changing within you physically. Things are changing within you mentally, whether you recognize it or not. The world is changing, right? Whether we're in a pandemic or not, the grass is still growing, right? The trees are still growing. The leaves are still growing. The leaves are still going to die, right? It's still going to rain. It's still going to storm. It's still going to hail. There's still going to be earthquakes. There's still going to be thunderstorms, right? So change is constant. Once you accept the fact that change is constant, it makes it a lot easier for you to be comfortable with the fact that, hey, I need to change, right? I need to change because if I'm not changing for the better, I'm changing for the worse, right? There's always these polar opposites. There's pluses and minuses. There's negatives and there's positives. There's forwards and there's backwards. There's left and there's right. There's always a polar opposite of whatever is happening. That was point number one. Accept that change is constant. Number two, accept that change is required. Accept that change is required. In order for you to get from where you are and where you want to be, you have to change. Like, that's a fact. You have to change. Change is required. Now, when we talk about change being required, we also have to accept that change is uncomfortable, right? Change is painful. Change is tiring. Change is humbling, right? Change is disrupting. Change is not always going to be something positive in terms of the experience, right? I'll have to talk about, the different layers of change that I've had to go through over the last couple of years, and how difficult and how painful that change has been. But the more difficult and the more painful the change is, the stronger and the more resilient you come out on the other side. But change is difficult. Prime example, I actually was going to talk today about, just being tired and accepting, the fact that you have to treat your body better, and having the balance between your mind and your body, but having the balance as an entrepreneur versus taking care of your health and being in balance. Because the last couple of weeks, with me hiring this physical trainer and this nutritionist and putting more stress on my body, adding that on top of the fact that I don't get enough sleep. Like, I know I don't get enough sleep. And it's not because I'm not going to bed and waking up at the proper times. It's because I have a newborn child, right? Like, I told my wife yesterday, I was like, man, like, I hate to admit it. Like, I'm not the type of person who complains. I'm not the type of person who's like, oh man, this is too tough, or I can't do this. Like, I pride myself on being able to handle, certain things. But yesterday I told her, I'm like, man, having a kid, and this is our first child, I'm like, man, having a kid is tiring. like there's no other way around it. Like, it's tiring, right? You're constantly staying up overnight, getting up, you're not getting the sleep that you need, like, and then you're trying to do all of this stuff. Quite frankly, like, it's tiring. And admitting to myself that, hey, not only is it tiring, but I need to take time out so that I can get more rest. I need to take time out so I can, rest my mind and not try to continue to push forward, with all these other things going on. But anyway, going through the process of adding all of this stuff onto my plate, right? Life is changing. My life has changed a lot in the last 6 months. a lot in the last 6 months. There has been a lot of discomfort. There has been a lot of pain, right? Working through and fighting through the fatigue, working through and fighting through, the sleeplessness, working through and fighting through, still maintaining, accountability and still executing, right? Like change, not only is it required, but it may be uncomfortable, right? It may be challenging. It should be uncomfortable. It should be challenging. It should be difficult. I could go on and on, about number two. But anyway, moving on. The third one, when it comes to change and adopting a mindset and adopting an ability to change as frequently as we need to, is realizing and accepting the fact that there is always a better way. There is always a better way. We simply have not discovered the better way to do something, right? Like, one of the difficult things of, and it may just be the personality type of people who choose to be entrepreneurs. Maybe it's just, people in general, but we often have a hard time admitting when we're wrong. We often have a hard time, even if we're headed in the wrong direction, right? And we're headed in the wrong direction, right? Like, how many times have you gotten into, an argument about, driving directions or something, and you don't know where you're going, but you don't want to admit the fact that, hey, I don't know where I'm going, and so you continue down the wrong path just to try to prove a point, right? We have to accept the fact that there is always a better way, even when we think we have all of the information, even when we think we know, everything there is to know. There is always a better way. We just simply haven't discovered it yet, right? And then that's really what brings about change, is because we, at some point in time, whether we're open to it, because if you are not open to change, it will be forced upon you, right? Like, if you are not open to change, life is going to force it upon you one way or another. And that's when we typically find ourselves in difficult situations, because we miss the signs leading up to it. We missed the indicators leading up to it, where we were being told, hey, change is needed, right? But we either ignored it, we didn't have our level of awareness high enough, and so we didn't realize it, or we realized it and didn't do anything about it. And we got to a point where life was like, yo, it's time for a change. There is a better way. And let me put you in a position where you understand and you realize and you become aware of the fact that there is a better way. And so when we always have this mindset of thinking there is a better way, now instead of having this anti-change mentality, we always have our minds open for trying to look for signs, trying to figure out, trying to seek out the information we need to help us do the things that we're trying to do in a better way. There is always a better way. We just simply have to find it, and we simply just have to figure out what it is we need to do to, kind of create the change that we're looking for, and how to implement that, within our lives. So that's really all I want to talk about today. Is, don't be afraid to change. Whether it's changing the route that you're on, it's okay to say, hey, something's not working here. Hey, maybe I need to take things in another direction. Or maybe it's changing, people around you. Whatever it is, do not be afraid to change. Now, let me caveat that at the same time, you don't want to be the person who's always quitting something, right? It's not about quitting something because it's not working. It's just about changing, making the adjustments that you need to make to continue to move forward in the direction, in which you're trying to go. So part of that is knowing, hey, where am I trying to go? Right? Like, having that general idea of where you're trying to go, and then figuring out and making the adjustments along the way as you walk down that path. You pick up new tools to put into your tool belt, right? You have a higher level of skill set, a higher level of awareness, a higher level of operating, and so you're able to make those changes much easier. So to recap, change is constant, right? Don't be afraid to change. And how can we go through this process of change a little bit easier? One, accepting that change is constant, right? Things are always changing. Two, understanding and accepting the fact that change is required. And number three, there is always a better way. There's always a better way. So I appreciate you all for logging on to the 3 a.m. club today. I hope as you go through the week this week, you're able to realize, hey, there are some things I can do differently. And whatever those things are that you realize and decide that you can do differently, whatever aspects of change that you need to implement in your life, I hope that it takes you, just another step further in this journey of life, this journey of entrepreneurship, this journey of leveling up. And remember, the quicker you can change, the quicker you can make those adjustments, the quicker you can continue down the path of accomplishment and achievement of whatever it is you are trying to achieve and accomplish. So again, I appreciate you all. I'll see you later this week. Make sure you log on to the other stuff that I've got going on. If there's anything I can do, to help you, to support you, just reach out and let me know. I always like interacting. I always like collaborating, and I always like, growing. That's part of that change, constant change and constant growth. So again, I appreciate you all. I love you. I hope you have a great week. Take care. Peace. One love.